This is a follow-up to my C# events video. If you have not seen that video yet, go ahead and watch it first. You can click the little info box that pops up to get to that video quickly. In this video, I'm going to show you other types you can pass into events and why you might use those over a class as shown in the first video. The first option is changing the class to a struct. Right now we have public class countdown event args, which inherits the event args class. So if I were to just change this to, actually I'm going to keep this code and just comment it out after I copied it, paste it, there we go. I'm just going to change it to a struct and drop off the inheritance. Now if I were to execute this code, it would behave the same way as it did before, except now you don't have to deal with the excess garbage collection by creating a new class every time. I don't really want to go into details about when you would or would not use a structure over a class. There's a lot of really good information on that on the web. Other people can probably cover it better than myself. Next, I'm going to talk about actions. Before I do though, I'm going to comment out all of the code that's not related to them, just so you don't get confused. To start, I'm going to make a new public event with an action, and it will have no parameters. So I'm going to do event action, and I'm going to call it on action timer 0. And just like before, we're going to invoke it in the same way. You can use either method, whichever you prefer. Now, one key difference you're going to notice is I'm not passing in this, and I'm not passing in arguments either, given that there are none set up on the action. You probably see I have a ton of errors down here. This is because I haven't modified my move object to work with the new events. So I'm going to go do that now. I'm going to comment out the old code, and then we'll start adding in code for the action. Like before, I'm going to do underscore countdown, and this time I'm going to type on action timer 0 plus equal, press tab once to auto populate the method. I'm going to copy my line where I subscribe and change the plus to a minus on disable to remove that subscription. I'm going to use the same move action as before, so I'm going to copy my line where I adjust the transform position and drop it in the method that it generated. Then I'm going to save my script and then go back to my project. Now I will hit play, and you're going to see that the cube will move around every 3 seconds just like before. Right, now stopping and going back to my code. Now to pass in arguments so that we can pull data when the event fires. So going back to my countdown script, very similar. I'm going to go back to my event here, an action. I'm going to add in int because I want to pass in an integer. And just to show you, if you want to pass in more than one, I'm also going to pass in a string. You're going to see some errors down below because I now have to invoke with an integer as well a string. So like before, the integer I'm going to pass in is played times, and I'm just going to pass in some random string and then save and then go back to move object. Here's something you may have noticed. After I changed the signature of the event by adding in arguments or parameters, this is recognizing that they don't match up with the method in which it's called when the event fires. Previously, when using a class or structure, that was not the case. So that's kind of cool. You get that notification that something's not right. However, this is a double-edged sword, because anytime you change an action signature, you also have to update every single method it's called. Whereas if you use a structure or a class, you can add in new data inside that structure or class and it won't cause anything to break. So given I changed my signature, I'm going to make a new method, and I'm going to also redo this part here where I subscribe and unsubscribe so it auto generates it for me. So I'm going to remove these lines and delete this method entirely. So now I'm going to do underscore countdown dot on action timer 0 like before plus equal tab. And you can see that it automatically adds in the new arguments. And just like before, I'm going to copy this code, put it under on disable, and change the plus to a minus. One thing you may notice is that it's passing in the parameters or arguments as arg1 and arg2. They're not named like they would be in a structure or class, so that's something you'll lose when using actions. So I'm going to rename this to played times, and I don't really care what my string is named because it's just an example that I'm adding in an extra argument. I'm going to do print played times like before, and I'm going to also, like before, move the cube around. Now I'll go ahead and print the string as well just to show you it's working. I saved, and now I'm going to go back to my project where I will hit play. And you'll notice that every time the cube moves, it will update how many times it's moved, as well send out the string I put in. So in a nutshell, if you feel that your arguments are not going to change, you can use an action. Or if maybe you're optimizing your project and you're ready for a build and you're happy with the signature as is. And alternatively, you can use classes or structures if you think that you're going to be changing the data frequently without wanting to update the signature, or if you want the named variables. And one additional benefit to using an event handler, which I had forgot to mention, is let's assume we are running this code like we were previously, which uses the event handler. It could be a structure or class. Notice that we are passing in this, and I told you before it could be the script reference, the object, or it could be a variety of things. The idea of that is you can get the sender on the event handler, and then maybe if you want to do a callback to the sender when the event is received, you can cast that to whatever you expect as necessary and then take actions on it. I hope this has been a helpful update to you. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments.